Hey everyone, welcome back to the What Mariel Made podcast. Hey everyone, I'm Mariel. I am a knitter and a maker based out of Northern California, where I live with my husband and our dog Wally. He's right there on the couch in front of me, so if he wakes up and barks at somebody at the door, please excuse that. But hello, I know it's been a couple months since I last posted. I've been meaning to film and make another video and talk at y'all for quite some time, but life's gotten busy. But I have been knitting a lot, and have lots of exciting things to show you. So I'm just gonna jump into everything. But before I do that, I always forget to do this. If you want to see more of my makes in real time and just follow what I'm doing, you can find me on Instagram and Ravelry at What Mariel Made in both places. So check me out there. But yes, all that being said, let's jump into finished objects, starting with what I'm wearing right now. This is freshly blocked. Buttons have been added. Just posted finished object photos on Instagram. This is a newly finished test knit that's actually due tomorrow, so I just made it in right on time, the deadline. This is the Nest jacket by the designer Ronti of Ronti Studio on Instagram. Let me stand up real quick so you can see. This, I tested the size 2. The yarn I used is Kelborn Woolen's Germantown worsted weight in the color dark gray heather. And I had to size down slightly, but the pattern calls for 4mm needles and then a 3.5mm needle for all of the ribbing and finishing touches. I just sized down that 4mm down to a 3.75mm needle, just specific to my gauge and my knitting tension. So that's really the only modification I made, but everything else I pretty much made to pattern. To talk about the construction really quick. So basically this cardigan is knit bottom up. So you start by casting on this bottom ribbing. You knit most of the body just flat. This texture is really fun. It's very, very simple, but I feel like it packs a punch. It truly is. If you know how to knit, purl, and slip stitches, you will be golden. But yes, this is made bottom up. Once you kind of reach the point where you need to start splitting for the back and the fronts, then you start splitting your stitches. I can't remember if you do the back or the fronts first, but you kind of just make the panels all separately. And then once you're done making all of the fronts, the 2 fronts, and then the 1 back panel, you seam them together. This very easy, clean seam is what you're left with. And Ronti includes links for all the different techniques you need to know in her pattern, which is really great. At that point, you then pick up for the sleeves and work the sleeves inside out, which is wonderful for a few reasons. Well, the main reason that I think it's wonderful is because you end up also doing the ribbing for the cuffs inside out, which is a modification I usually make to patterns when I knit sleeve cuffs, just because you end up having really, really neat ribbing. But Ronti's got your back and has already thought about that and has built that into how you knit the sleeves. So that is wonderful. Then after the sleeves are done, you go in and do the button bands, which are just a 1x1 rib button band, buttonholes, very, very simple. And then you go in and finish with the final buttonhole on the collar. So you do a little bit of, I don't know if you can see it here. You do a little bit of double knitting right before you do the ribbing for the button band. You bind everything off in tubular bind off, and it's beautiful and gorgeous. And yeah, this is truly, it took a long time to knit because it took a lot of yarn and just a lot of time, but it's so worth it. And it's truly a jacket with just how thick and warm It is definitely jacket level, not cardigan level. Cardigan, I think it's too warm to be a cardigan, quite honestly. That being said, I'm just going to unbutton this. Some things to note if you're hoping to make this in the future. The pattern will be released, I believe, let's see, what day is it? I believe it's going to be released around November 21st. I think that's when Ronti has it scheduled for. So depending on when this podcast comes out, it may already be out, but some things to note if you plan to make this. It does use a lot of yarn. The initial pattern required, like when we were starting the test knit, required 600 grams of yarn for my size, second size. I was kind of in the like middle to like later batch of knitters, just like in like how fast I was knitting and like how fast I got my yarn and got started. So there were a few folks who had been like progressing a lot faster and they needed to get extra yarn pretty early on. And so I was like, okay, maybe I'll like wait it out, but maybe I need to get some extra yarn. And lo and behold, I ended up getting 2 extra skeins, so 200 grams more. And by the time I finished this jacket, I only had 16 grams of yarn left. So I used nearly 800 grams of yarn, 784 if I'm doing my math correctly. Yeah, so note that. It eats up a lot of yarn. Another thing to note is that gauge swatching and blocking your swatch is like monumentally important in my mind here, in my opinion. Even if you're someone who like typically doesn't swatch that, like formally, like I'll do like half a swatch sometimes, or like it depends on like the project and like how intense it is or how new some of the techniques are. Because this was like quite a like specific texture, I really wanted to make sure like my gauge was spot on. And you know, for a test knit too, you usually need to like report back on like your specific gauge and stuff to the designer, just so they know how to like read your final garment and like your measurements and things. So I actually made the initial swatch with a 4mm needle. That ended up being a little too large, so that's why I sized down to the 3.75mm needle to meet gauge. But that being said, I think it's like super important because this texture, depending on like your knitting tension and then blocking it, like it will grow a little bit. And specifically for like the sleeves, you do not want to end up with like crazy, crazy long sleeves. So just be good about getting your gauge. And I really think that's it. I don't think there's anything else you'd like really need to know. The pattern is very, very clearly written. I believe like the level of knitting that Ronti, the designer, suggests is like an intermediate level of knitting, which I agree with. I think there's like a lot of techniques that like an intermediate knitter would just kind of know what to do already or has done maybe before. But I would also say like if you're just a confident beginner or you're just like determined to make this, like you could totally do it. There's nothing in this pattern that's not searchable on YouTube or Google. And yeah, you can totally, I mean, I hold this philosophy in general. Like if you really want to make something, put your mind to it, do some research, you can make it. So yeah, I believe that's it. Real quick, the shout out for the buttons. I initially wanted to go to a thrift store and source some secondhand buttons, like right off of a cardigan, like just buy the cardigan and then use the buttons off of it. But I did not have time, mainly to like reach the deadline tomorrow for this jacket. And so, I was actually on my way to the thrift store, but I had to stop by a big box craft store, and so to pick up something else, and so I did, but then I like walked by and like tried to see if there was like how many buttons there were and like what the button selection was, and I actually ended up finding these buttons for a very very decent price. I think I got like 3 buttons for a little over $2 a piece because they were on sale, and so I just got 6 buttons total. And they're like actually a perfect match in the exact size that I needed. And there were not many buttons at all to choose from. So I kind of feel like that was like a wink from the knitting higher powers that be. They were like, here you go, just use these buttons, you'll be fine. And then I just used like leftover stash like cotton yarn that I had. that's maybe like a sport weight, so I was able to like use it. And I'd use the toothpick method too. Like I put a toothpick on my button as I'm like sewing it on, just to make sure that I have enough room so that the button sits. Yeah, here you can see, so that the button sits like far enough from the cardigan so that when you button it up, it doesn't like squish the knitted fabric too much. You may already know to do that, but yeah, that's it for the nest jacket. I'm actually going to take this off because it is rather warm, but yeah, love it. Love it. Classic forever wardrobe piece. Next finished object is another test knit that has been released. Let me just pull up my notes for it. This is the Colorfield Vest by the designer's name is Lisa Meisner, but their brand is Maane, Maane. Actually, might put this on for you real quick since I have a white tee on. One moment. I'll put in some cutaway footage of this, of like the full view of this too. It's actually the first time I'm wearing this when it's like actually kind of cool outside. So yeah, it's cute. I like it. This is a vest. I also tested the second size, but my gauge was off and I didn't fully realize until I had like finished. This is my gauge swatch, and I realized I like measured and counted my stitches incorrectly because of the like method that you use to knit this. So you're probably wondering like, what is this like dual color stitch action that's happening? Like, what is that all about? Basically, this was something when I saw Lisa post this, the test call for it, I was like, I have to make that. I don't know how you did that. I don't know how you like made that or knit that. I don't like, my brain doesn't even know. Maybe there's some intarsia involved, which there is, but like, I don't even know, but I just know that I need to make it. And so, and I knew that if I didn't sign up for the test, and I probably would not get around to making it. So I applied for the test knit, got accepted, and here we are many months later. This method of having like two colors is, I don't know if there's like a specific name to it, but I've just been calling them like one row garter stripes, or like one row stripes and garter. And it's basically this method where you knit each row twice in like a very specific order. So it's like, I think a 4-row repeat if I'm remembering correctly, but essentially you end up like all the bumps end up being a different color in the garter, and it ends up kind of marrying a lot of these colors together. So there's 4 total colors. There's a red, a yellow, a brown, and then like a light blue, and all of them kind of like mesh in together, and it's this really cool effect. It's also paired with intarsia, obviously, because there's like blocks of color. So it was like a combination of doing like multiple techniques at once. I'd also never done intarsia before. So yeah, this project was like filled with like new skills and just learning a lot. Definite like big brain project. For that reason, I would say it's definitely probably meant for like an intermediate knitter, ideally. But again, if you really want to make something, just like put your mind to it and you can figure it out. Yeah, so my gauge was a little off, so it's a bit more oversized than I guess like the initial, like the actual size 2 should fit. But honestly, I kind of still love it anyway, and I'd rather it still be a little too large than a little too small. Let me get into some of the stats. So I used a 3.5mm needle across the board, and let's see, most of these yarns are Kelborn Woolen's Scout yarn, which is a fingering weight wool, non-superwash wool, really, really beautiful. The Scout is for the yellow, which is sunflower heather, the red, which is burnt orange heather, and then the brown is chestnut heather. And then the only other color that I have is the blue color, which is I think it's a discontinued yarn from Plymouth Yarn called Rome. their Rome yarn in light blue heather, but I got that only because the yarn shop that I went to didn't have Kelborn Mullen Scout in like the right shade of blue that I needed. So I was able to find this other blue that matched the gauge pretty equally. There's lots of really beautiful color combinations on Ravelry. Like you can see everyone's projects, and there have been really some testers who've made really fun color combos. I forget this knitter's name, but their handle is procrastinator, like _ procrastinator maybe. But I really liked their version because they used sock yarns. They used like neon, like pink, blue, yellow, and maybe like a green or something. But yeah, it was like really beautiful, the finished like piece, because even if your colors don't necessarily feel like they would go together, because they're being like woven in and out of each other with this like one row garter stripe technique, it kind of ends up blending everything together. It's just like such a cool pattern. Like, I don't know how the designer even like came up with this, but let me try to see. Definitely be aware that because each row needs to be worked twice, you know, you may be like, oh, it's a vest. Like, how long could it take? It's technically like twice the amount of stitches as a normal vest. So it is a lot of knitting. It took a long time for a vest in my mind. And then, let's see. There's double knitting features on like the neckline and then around the armholes, which are really cool because Lisa uses some double, what does she use? It's double knitting worked with German short rows to like add more like curves to where you need it, to like make the double knitting like mold a little bit more to like the roundness, like a rounder edge, which is like also genius. I've never seen that before. So yeah, it's like this whole piece is just like super thoughtfully designed and made, and it's honestly just like fun to experience as a knitter too. In my Ravelry project page, I've linked to a bunch of videos that I found helpful when like learning some of these new techniques. So in addition to that, the actual pattern itself, Lisa did a really great job like making diagrams, like pictures with descriptions of like all these different techniques, which is also really helpful when you're like trying to figure out like how to do something. So I think like, again, like there's a lot of resourcing already built into the pattern, but if you need extra resources, you can refer to my project page on Ravelry if you're curious. The only thing that I'm not satisfied, and this is like a me problem for sure, it's no knock on the pattern. I think it's just like me learning new techniques and like not fully knowing if I did something right or wrong. But I was comparing my finished garment to some of the test knitters, and then obviously like the pattern designer's garment, who made basically I copied her color choice here. And I just noticed that like some of my joins, actually this side isn't too bad, but yeah, some of my joins, I think intarsia, maybe the mix of the intarsia and the one color garter stripes, I just feel like some of them aren't very clean, and I just don't know like what I could have done to fix that. Or yeah, I like tried to fix some of it in like the blocking process, but I don't know. I actually feel like the back is a bit cleaner in some of the joints. So again, I don't fully know what happened there. But again, like, am I going to go back and like rip anything out and redo it? No. So overall, I'm very pleased with this garment. And this is the Colorfield Vest by Maine by Lisa Meisner. So yeah, I believe Lisa is also doing like a workshop for this vest, if I'm not mistaken. It may have already happened, but I did see a post about it on Instagram not too long ago. So, yeah. Last thing is that if you're curious about how the inside of this garment looks, I also have photos of that on my Ravelry project page, just because like sometimes specifically with color work and intarsia, I think it's just cool to see and like double check, especially if you're learning something for the first time, like how it looks on the wrong side. So check out Ravelry if you're curious, and that is the Colorfield Vest. Okay, moving forward. Item I have is something quite random. I don't even know, like, I think I had gotten some cotton yarn. It was still pretty warm out when I made this. I made this like towards the end of September, and where I live, it's usually still pretty warm. And so I grabbed, it was like a last minute chaotic purchase. I was at another big box craft store and the yarn was on sale and I just had to take a look. I am but a knitter who loves yarn. Like, I have weaknesses. I have so many weaknesses, but I got, let me see, I got 3 skeins of Lyon brand 24/7 cotton in the color Cafe au lait. And it was this really nice, like, mid-tone brown. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to make either, like, a bag or, like, a warm weather accessory or something with it. But then I got home and I kind of just wanted to make, like, it's a pretty stiff yarn. So initially I wasn't thinking, like garment initially. I was thinking, like, crocheted or knitted accessory. But then I was like, you know what? I want to make, like, a knit t-shirt because lately I've been, like, wanting more knit t-shirts, especially to wear, like, to work and into the office because it's kind of, like, the perfect, like, elevated basic. And so I ended up taking the Lyon Sweater pattern by Petite Knit, which is, it has, like, a pretty nice fitted shoulder, but then it has, like, stripes and it's, like, a long sleeve sweater. But I saw someone, like, long time ago on Ravelry make just, like, a short sleeve version of the sweater, which looked really nice using, like, a Noro yarn. And so I was like, oh, that's, like, a cool idea to kind of, like, modify. And again, I love, like, taking a pattern I already have and, like, modifying it slightly to, like, create something new that I want. So I ended up making a modified Lyon Sweater t-shirt. And as you can see, it's rather cropped. My gauge is also pretty off, I think. Like, I made the second size as well, which is technically an extra small, but it's still kind of big, but not too big. Yeah, I don't know really what to say here. The only modifications I made were to obviously, like, shorten the sleeves. I only ended up doing, so I followed the stitch counts for the second size, but I only ended up doing 10 repeats of the raglan increases, cast on 8 stitches for the underarm, and then, let's see, I think I only knit 4 rounds of stockinette before binding off with a standard bind off. And then for the neckline, I did a rolled neckline, so I picked up stitches for the neckline, and then I knit 4 rounds again before binding off. This time with the Icelandic bind off, because that creates kind of like a naturally rolled hem, which I've used before in some other, I think I've used the Icelandic bind off in my cloud sweater before, because it calls for rolled edges, and it's still pretty stretchy. And then I did 3 body decreases, kind of just to taper the, like, body a little bit, to keep it from, like, flaring out too much because it was already kind of large for, like, my torso. And then I just bound off the body with a standard knit bind off as well, so that the edges rolled. So yeah, overall, like, very quick, very simple. The, like, structure of it, I don't know what kind of sleeve this is. But yeah, it fits pretty well. It's a nice, like, it is thick, but after blocking it, I mean, it's still kind of stiff, but it's kind of nice. And I didn't really intend it to be worn too much, like, when it got cooler, but because it's so thick and it's cotton, but it's, like, heavier, thicker cotton, it's still kind of like a nice weight to have. And my office doesn't have great airflow, so it gets pretty hot anyway, so this is kind of like a nice in-between. That's my Lyon sweater. I used 4mm needles. My gauge was, like, a little bit off, like a little larger than what the pattern requires. And I used about 286 grams out of the 300 total grams that I had. So didn't use too much yarn either, which is great. So yeah, I would definitely do this again. And maybe even with like a wool, a wool blend maybe. Like linen quill could be cool with this. So yeah, that is the Lyon Sweater by Petite Knit. We're gonna switch gears for the next finished object. Last month, I had a very, very exciting trip with some friends that I had been anticipating like all year. And it was in like a tropical locale. And, you know, as you do as a knitter, I was like, I kind of want to like make something for myself before this trip. And of course, it's like, let me see what the actual dates of this was. I think it was like a week before the trip. I was like, I want to make something. Yeah, it was like the week right before we had to leave. And I have had this project, this like pattern saved in my library for a while. Knew I like kind of wanted to make it at some point, and all the projects looked really good. And the project I'm talking about is the Lime Skirt by Le Poule. Or the designer Le Poule. And so I made the lime skirt. It doesn't really like look like anything that nice just holding it up. So I will definitely put in some cutaways of me wearing it. But this was such a fun and like surprisingly easy knit. Granted, I do knit quite fast and like I have a lot of time to knit. So I was able to make this like within a week. I think like right under a week, including blocking. But yeah, highly recommend this if you want like a beach cover up, like a easy breezy beach cover up. The hardest part is honestly just like the very beginning is just like doing the double folded channel to encase the elastic. The pattern originally calls for like I think like half an inch wide elastic, but I already had like 3/4 inch wide elastic, so I just used what I had. It's also recommended in the pattern and by other people who've made this to find an elastic that matches the color of your yarn as much as possible, because like you will be able to see the elastic like poke through. So like, yeah, especially if you're making like kind of a poppier color, if you can find like a shade of elastic that matches like a little bit more, or at least like the tone, I definitely would recommend that. But I already just had white elastic, and then this yarn that I'm using is it's yarn that two like old stash yarns. It's like a lace weight linen, 100% linen cone. That's like this yarn back here. I use that. And then I held it together with like an old sock yarn that I have. So it's kind of made like a sport weight held together. And it's like a very easy to memorize lace pattern. And it grows a bit with blocking and then again with wear. But yeah, I don't really know what else to say about this. I used 5mm needles for like the lace portion, and then 3.5mm needles for the waistband. Pleasantly surprised again, just like by how easy this was to make and how like nice it looks. I kind of want to make another one in black. There's somebody on Ravelry who made one in black, and I really like the way they styled it. They wore it underneath like a really oversized t-shirt, and I just thought it looked so good. Yeah, I think this would be nice to have in like a darker color for sure, and like to style it in more fun ways. So yes, that is the Lime Skirt by Le Poule. I've also seen a lot of people make like a shorter mini version of this too, which has also been really cute. It's also really cute in like a lime green chartreuse color. There's been like kind of like this shade almost. It's been really, really cute to see. But yeah, Lime Skirt, highly recommend for a warm weather knit if you're in the market for it. My next finished object is an accessory. I have it right here to show you. It's hanging by my front door. This is another Easy Peasy scarf by Suzanne Mueller or Paula Strict. I used 2 colors of yarn that I had in stash. I've been saving this yarn. This is like kind of a heavy fingering, light sport weight, 100% alpaca yarn that I got gifted by some family last year, like directly from like a local to them alpaca farm. And yeah, I've just been like saving it, and I just kind of got struck with inspiration. I don't know what truly inspired me, but yeah, I just thought these two tones were really nice. The only modifications I made were in order to like make the yarn go a little farther. I had, I think, a little less of the darker brown, so I kind of just used the dark brown as much as I could, and then when I hit like the largest point around the halfway point, I think a little bit before, I knit just some like normal rows without any increases or decreases, or without any more increases before I started to decrease. Let me show you. So if you like look at it, instead of having like a crisp point where it starts to immediately decrease, it's kind of more of like a rounded edge, which I don't know, I kind of like that. And yeah, that's the only modification I made. Otherwise, I just would like knit back and forth, making 2 rows, and then I would switch yarns. And yeah, and I pretty much just followed the pattern to a T, just according to like, I just started decreasing once I had half the amount of yarn left. But yeah, that's pretty much... Oh, there is one thing I did want to note, which was when you do the initial increases and then even later when you do the decreases. Maybe this is more of a me problem. The only thing to note is that initially when you begin, and I always forget to do, or I've forgotten to do this now for the second time I've made the Easy Peasy bandana, is I never leave enough like slack when I'm doing the increases and the decreases, so I end up with these like funny little like curved ends, which like honestly doesn't bug me too much. And I try to straighten them out a little bit when I block, but yeah, if I just like leave a little more slack as I'm knitting, enough for it to like just like fully even out, yeah. That's the only thing I would like take note of moving forward. But overall, I've been really enjoying wearing this to work, or just out at night when it gets like a little bit chilly, but I don't need like a full jacket or like a fully, like a full like wool sweater on top of like whatever I'm wearing. So I'll usually wear it a couple of ways. It is long enough to wear it like wrapped around fully once, and then, you know, like fully get my whole neck this way if it's like really cold. I've been enjoying wearing it this way with like a navy cotton crew neck that I have. I just think it like adds like a little nice bit of interest. And the other way I've been wearing it is I'll do the thing where you like tie a knot in one of the ends and then you just pull the other end through it and just kind of make one of these situations. And this is nice for when I do need like a little extra warmth, like on the back of my neck, but it's not like covering my whole neck, so I'm not like overheating. So yeah, those are the 2 ways I like to wear my Easy Peasy bandana. But yeah, really love this. It's really quick to make. I'll probably make some more. I mean, I have some like stash yarn, especially as I look to like gift knitting this season. This has been like a pretty quick and like nice thing that I feel like a lot of people would enjoy getting. So yeah, might end up making a couple of these for like people that I have in mind. But Easy Peasy Bandana. I believe it's a free pattern too by Paula Strict, so get your hands on it, have some fun with the colors, use up some stash yarn. You're golden. All right, moving on. Okay, this is my next finished object. Again, let me stand up real quick so you can see her in her full glory. So this is a heavily modified winter's pullovers. You see a theme? Just like heavily modified everything, or slightly modified everything. This is a winter's pullover by Ozetta, but I've heavily modified it mainly due to the fact that I was playing a fierce game of yarn chicken because of this yarn. This is a very special yarn to me. It is 100% locally grown, and I think within California, milled yarn from like a local farm. where I've visited a couple times. I've seen the sheep that produce this yarn. I've like pet the sheep that produce this yarn. So it's been really, really special to be able to actually make a garment and make something like super wearable, made from like completely local sheepies. Amazing. So yeah, that it was like, yeah, I like these I've had 4 like hefty skeins sitting in my stash for a while, each about 150-ish grams. So I had like around 600 grams total, and I didn't know what I wanted to make, and I wasn't sure like what would be super wearable because it's like a pretty rustic yarn. It's so beautiful. But I settled on the winter's pullover for a few reasons. Like, I mean, have you seen Hanan's winter's pullover? It's gorgeous. And I think the yarn, like winter's pullover plus the yarn texture. I had like, I had a swatch, but I had to unravel the swatch because I needed it. But it was like giving me like big Baba vibes. And I mean, I feel like most knitters kind of like love Baba vibe. People in general have been like loving Baba vibes this season. So, and it's such like a classic cozy vibe. Take a shot every time I say vibe. Actually, don't take a shot. Take a sip of water every time I say vibe. And so, yeah, I kind of like had the idea cemented. I had like swatched for it. I kind of met gauge. It was like met gauge enough. And so I started going with it. And I, again, started with the stitch counts for the second size. I also used, let me double check what size needles I used. I believe I used 6mm needles for like the bulk of the sweater, and then a 5mm for all of the ribbed finishing. Yeah, so I used the size 2 stitch counts when initially casting on, and this is constructed top down, kind of normal top down sweater, drop shoulder sweater construction where I think you knit the back piece first, then you pick up for each side, and then you join in the round, and then you add the sleeves and the neck, whatever. So that sort of construction. So I used the size 2 stitch counts, but because my gauge was like a little big, I do think like the shoulders are like quite oversized for even for the size 2 on my frame. So that being said, I'll just start going into the modifications I made. I did do quite a few like body decreases because I just knew I didn't need a sweater like this large, and I needed to like save the amount of yarn I was using as I was like knitting down to the body. And so, yeah, I did, I think maybe like 4 rounds of decreases. Another thing that you can kind of see here, which I don't really mind, it kind of blends in nicely actually because the top of the sweater is a little darker, but where you see this like bottom get slightly darker, there's like a curve here. By the time I had connected the front and the back in the round, the back of my sweater was like quite lower than the front when I was trying it on. And I didn't want it to continue to have like such a large disparity between like the front and the back. Like it would have been like it would have been like this, I feel like. And I was running out of yarn, so I needed to be smart with how I knit the rest of this body. So what I ended up doing was I looked up how to add short rows to the back of a sweater because I figured some people may do that in general. And I ended up just following those instructions, but to add length to the front of my sweater. And it was basically just like a series of short rows that added a little bit more fabric to the front that kind of makes this like curve here. So, and it ended up, you can see it now, it is still a little shorter than the back, but not by too much. And like, I don't mind this at all. So that was like one of the largest modifications I made. And then obviously, I don't know if you can tell, but the sleeves are quite short. Huge shout out to my friend Sophia of Sophia Knits Things, because I was like starting to freak out and I was like starting to ask people on Instagram, like, does anyone else have more yarn? I'm gonna lose yarn chicken. And she was like, you can do this. Like, just modify the sleeves, make them shorter, decrease them, pick up less stitches, like do all the things. So I basically like did everything she told me or recommended. And I think we're like ideally I think they'd be like slightly longer, but honestly, they're at like the perfect bracelet length for me. And for like day-to-day chores and just like, you know, cooking and cleaning, doing dishes and stuff, like this is actually the perfect length of sleeve. So yeah, they ended up being perfect, and I prioritized just getting the level of ribbing that I wanted. I will say, again, kind of to save yarn, I did a tubular bind off for the neck and then the sleeves, but then for the body, I just did a normal, I did a 1x1, or I did a standard bind off in pattern, in like 1x1 rib pattern. So that's the only like kind of difference there, because I was really afraid of not having enough yarn. But we made it out, and I love this sweater so much. I also ended up doing only about like 5.5 inches, I think, of like neck ribbing. I just have a short neck, and so I knew I didn't need like as much as the pattern required. So I kept trying it on, and like, you know, I knit the sleeves and the neckline, or I knit the neckline before the sleeves, but I did both of these things before continuing on into the body, again, because yarn chicken. And yeah, I just kept trying on the neck to see how it felt, and honestly, I just love it. It's perfect. If I do get my hand on more yarn, there is a chance I may extend the body a little bit in the future, but honestly, like, I'm quite pleased with it, and I also think because it's like the perfect crop for me and still rather oversized, it would look really good with like a skirt or a dress underneath, so I might need to try styling it that way. But yeah, I love this sweater. And contrary to what I thought, because it's such a rustic yarn, it's actually like created such a lovely, like, natural halo. And it's not that rough for me. Granted, I'm like pretty tolerant to wool. Like, I don't find wool that itchy for the most part. But yeah, I could definitely, I mean, I have the t-shirt underneath now, but I have worn this like directly on my like torso skin, and it's not been that bad. And then this neck too, like, it doesn't really ever touch it touches like the back of my neck, but the front of my neck is still kept warm, but it's not like constantly against the front of my neck, because it's like a nice, like, just oversized enough funnel neck. So yeah, I love it. I love it so much, and I'm gonna wear this forever, and it's gonna be an heirloom piece in my wardrobe. Yeah. So that is the heavily modified winter's pullover by Ozetta. And I do want to make another one of these, like, proper. I want to make like a proper winter's pullover someday, but we'll get to that. Yeah. And I have one more finished object. Very, very special finished object. Okay. The final finished object, and honestly just like a very exciting personal knitting life update, is that this past summer, like this past fall, late summer, going into fall, I was able to teach my husband how to knit. I did not like beg him to learn how to knit, but it kind of came up in conversation because I think he saw a dog sweater or something. I apologize for that noise. It's like a triggering noise to people in corporate. If you know, you know. But yeah, it all started because he wanted to knit a sweater for our dog, for Wally. And so that was like the first project. It's actually still a whip, because I decided to self-draft a sweater with him. So we got like the chunkiest needles. I have like 8mm needles, and we like went to Michael's, got like a chunky yarn. I think one of the Wool Ease yarns, like the chunkiest one they have. And we just got started there, and he learned like the basics of like knitting and purling. And I like kind of tried teaching him this before and just never stuck. But he kind of got really good like pretty quickly, or like got the hang of it pretty quickly. But then we had some travel coming up, and I didn't want to like bring like the bulky yarn and like just this whole project like on a plane or like on a trip with us. So I was like, you know what? Maybe we'll get you started on a smaller project that can be like your travel project. So he is somebody who is not like a big knit garment person per se, but there is like a knit hat that I knit like couple years ago now, that he usually wears like when it cools down, and he wears it very, very, very frequently. So I was like, maybe you should just make yourself a hat, because you do wear knit hats. So I pulled out the first hat pattern that I ever made, which is the lathe hat by Isolde. And lo and behold, he made a lathe hat. And it's honestly so, so good. He does have a tighter knitting gauge, which is interesting. I'm an English, like, flick knitter, kind of. I throw my yarn, so he is also now an English knitter. But yeah, let me see. Let me go through the stats real quick of this hat. So it's so cute. It's very warm. Used 4mm needles. We made the adult medium size. And the yarn is from Loops and Threads. So it's the Michaels brand, Loops and Threads. The type of yarn is heathered tweed. It's actually, I have existing. This is the leftover. It's like a pretty big skein. And the color is soot. I think this yarn, there are pros and cons to using a yarn like this. If you do decide to use this yarn, just be forewarned that, like, because of its fuzzy nature, it's like very, very sticky. Also, it sticks to itself really easily. I didn't cake this up at the very start. We tried to do a center pull, and that proved to be like really, really annoying because it kept getting stuck to itself. And then I'd have to like unravel and untangle a whole bunch of knots in the ball. So in hindsight, just cake it up beforehand and hopefully you don't lose steam. So that is something about that yarn. And then sometimes like seeing your stitches is kind of hard as a beginner because you can't it's fuzzy, and like in this case it's like fuzzy black yarn, so it's pretty hard to see. But because of the texture and the like heathered tweediness of it, it's pretty good at hiding like any inconsistencies. So that ended up kind of working out, and it looks really great. I did cast on for him because I didn't, in general, like I've heard this too before being recommended for teaching knitting, like teach the cast on like at the end after someone's been kind of like hooked to how to knit. Because I feel like casting on can be very discouraging at the very start, and you're just like, is everything this complicated? So yeah, I cast on for him, but he did everything else. Like at the very end, when he had to like weave in all his ends and like pull the top close, like he did that all on his own. Let me go over the construction of this hat really quick to show you. It's quite nice, and most of it really is like knitting a full stockinette tube. But you basically, this whole part of the brim is knit all just in a tube and then folded over. And then one modification that I did with him, that I made him do, is instead of sewing the brim down to the cast on edge, I made him knit his live stitches onto the cast on edge. And that kind of works out for a few reasons. Like it makes the brim a little more stretchy, and then also you don't have to end up doing the like wrap and turn that they have in the pattern, because you can kind of just keep knitting up, and then at the very end, or you just keep knitting up until you do the decreases for the crown, which happen very fast. And then you can just fold over the brim, and then you fold over the brim, and then you're done. And he wears this a few different ways. Like sometimes he'll just wear it with the brim folded up once. Sometimes he'll fold up the brim twice. But it's yeah. He's been wearing it every day since he finished it, as the weather has been cool enough. And yeah, I'm just like so proud of him, and so like pleasantly surprised with how hooked he got to like knitting. I posted a reel about it, which got a lot of love, and I have just like lots of B-roll of him like knitting on the plane when we were traveling, or knitting in our hotel, knitting in an Uber. Like, it's really wonderful. And there are even some evenings where, my normal evening routine is to literally like sit in front of the TV, put something on to watch, and just knit. And he was able to do that with me. And we were able to do that together. And that was just like, I don't know. I just like never thought I'd be able to experience this. So yeah, this is the lathe hat by Isolde. Highly recommend as a first hat pattern. If you don't mind this like scrunched top, because you don't really have to do, you only really need to know how to do knit two togethers. That's pretty much it. But yeah, very, very exciting finished object, and not my own, but Sam's first finished object. I only have two quick works in progress right now. One of them being I'm finishing the other sock for that of this pair of socks that I had going. This is coming from a Zauberball Crazy. So yes, just working on the second sock. I just finished doing my shadow wrap heel, so just have the foot left to go. So that's kind of just mindless TV knitting and commute knitting for now. And all my sock like recipe patterns I just include in my on the Ravelry project pages. But I do, that one's just a vanilla sock with a 2x1 cuff and yeah, just straight stockinette, shadow wrap heel as I mentioned before, and a standard toe. And then the other work in progress that I have going is a pair of mittens. This is the Luffe pattern by, is it by Hugastrick? I can't remember. I'll put the pattern designer on the screen, but this is what I have so far. This lighter yarn, this like white natural color, is Tin Peer Gynt from Sandnes Garn. But this darker yarn is my own hand spun. It's actually this yarn. So I still have like a couple mini skeins of it, but yeah, I don't even remember like the actual fiber content. I think it might be, is this Corriedale? I don't even know. But yeah, but I've wound up a little ball of it, and I'm just kind of seeing how far it was around. It was like 29 grams, this entire ball when I started. So, oops, we'll see how far it takes me. But what I really like about the Luffe pattern is that it's a fully lined mitten. And I've seen the knitting podcast Where We Knit. I think Kristen is her name. I've seen her make a pair of these mittens before, and they just turned out so cute. And I really like it. I was like perusing all the projects on Ravelry, and I realized I like the pattern or the combination of colors when there's like kind of a darker neutral paired with a lighter neutral, and then a big pop of color for the like lining of the mitten. So maybe I'll have to like dive into my stash, but yeah, maybe like a red or like a blue, pop of blue or red could be fun for the lining. So we'll see. This is it's fingering weight yarn on 3.5mm needles. So, I mean, yarn management's a little nutty right now just because everything's like tangled in front of me. But overall, it's been like I just started them earlier today during my lunch break. So pretty cute. And I think it'll fluff up nice with a little bit of blocking. And I'm making the adults small, like the third size in the pattern. So those are the Luffe mittens. I think Luffe literally means mitten in Finnish, question mark? Luffe? No, not Finnish. Danish. I'm thinking of a different word that I looked up that happened to be Finnish. But that's pretty much it for my active works in progress. I did have some acquisitions and some potential future plans. One of my acquisitions is this beautiful cone of red yarn. I was in Portland earlier last month because my husband ran the Portland Marathon, which was really exciting. And I was able to meet up with a fellow knitter friend that I met online, Stone from Stone Knits. And we met up, knit at a cafe for a little bit, and then we ended up going over to Good Yarn in Portland, and we both walked away with a cone of yarn. Prices are really amazing. The selection is amazing. The shop owner is super helpful and like just passionate about like helping you find the exact yarn you need, and giving you a lot of project inspiration. And so I couldn't help but pick up. It's like the perfect tomato red in my opinion. And this is a It's a merino and polyamide blend, 60% merino polyamide blend. It was only $6 per 100 grams, and I think there's about 500 on this cone. So I got a full cone of yarn for like $30, which is pretty good. And this swatch is done on a 4.5mm needle. I just made like a mini swatch just so I could see. Yeah, and it's very, very soft. But I did end up ordering another cone of yarn just off eBay. It's like a cobweb, like thinner than lace. It's like a cobweb weight alpaca silk blend and maybe like a slightly deeper red. But I'm hoping to pair them together and make a red sweater of some sort. Probably like a red cardigan. I'm thinking like the champagne cardigan vibes from Petite Knit. Something like V-neck, super classic that I can wear like forever. But yeah, that's what I have in mind there. Ooh, the other thing. So I don't know yet what I'm going to do with this. This was yarn I also got on a trip earlier this year when I went to Boston. I went to Boston Fiber Co. I think I already talked about this yarn maybe. They had like a sale section of like secondhand yarn that people I think just like donate, and you can get like really, really great deals. And this was Junction Fiber Mill Making Tracks yarn. And I got it for like, I think like $4 or something crazy like that. It's like a full 100-gram skein, DK weight Making Tracks. It's like a heavy DK weight actually. It's like actually properly worsted because they say you can get 200 yards for 100 grams, and the color is Heyday, and it's just like gorgeous. I'm glad I actually got like this combination of colors because Heyday can also veer a little bit more orangey, but I like this like more true mustardy yellow color and then like a more buttery color inside. I have some ideas for this. Like I thought about making just like a beanie with that, but then like a beanie would be really wearable, but I think it would also be really cool to use that in like a colorwork yoke. Like I envision this with like a darker gray. Like this is Germantown from Kelborn Woolens, and I think this is medium heather gray or medium gray heather. Even just like those two together, those could be fun. Or like a midnight navy blue if I wanted to make it like Michigan themed. I don't know. Lots of ideas here. That's more of just like an acquisition, potentially becoming a future plan. But then, if you're a knitter online, you've probably seen the sailor slippers go about. It's like totally taken the knitting world by storm. Like it's gone super viral. And so I got my hands on some Lyon brand Woolies 100% wool roving. It's just a single ply, like worsted weight yarn in navy. Again, because I want to try making my husband a pair of slippers for Christmas. But now that I'm thinking about it, maybe these two could be nice. Maybe I'll... See, the gears are turning. But, yeah, we'll see. But I have 2 skeins of this. Each skein, it's pretty generous. It's like 140 grams. 5 ounces, you get 300 yards. So if you divvy that up, do the math, it's about... I think it's about 200, let's see, let's do 300 divided by 140. It's about 214 yards per 100 grams, which is pretty good. So yeah, it's a good navy. This could also, I've also been wanting to potentially make the Moonset Polo by Ozetta, and all the test knitters use Let Lopi. And if this is a similar gauge to Let Lopi, this would be also a very economical yarn to use. I got this on sale as well for like 7 something. Let me double check. I think the yarn was like, I got 2 skeins for about $15. So yeah, $7.50. We'll see what happens here. Maybe I'll end up getting some more. It's a nice, true navy color. That's it for knitting talk. I have 2 other making things that I wanted to touch on really quick. Recently I wanted to make some like semi-handmade gifts for a baby shower for a coworker, and I didn't have enough time to knit anything. And in general, like gift knitting, and I'm so like, inspiration has to hit me at the right time, and it did not hit, and I did not have enough time anyway. So, what I ended up doing was I got some ready to wear like baby garments, and ended up like embroidering directly on them with just like normal embroidery floss. And it was for like a little baby girl who's gonna have a big sister. So like, I ended up embroidering like the like terms for like little sister and big sister in Mandarin on the backs of them, and then I did a little like matching chain stitch heart on the front of each of the garments, and that was like really easy and quick. But I wanted to mention this as just like a gift idea, because it was my first time using this like silky, what is it? It's sulky tender touch. It's basically just this like film, like mesh film that you can cut up and then use to either like stabilize your stitches. But I mainly got it because I didn't want the back of the stitches and like the knots to be itchy against like little kid or like baby skin. And it was really easy to use. I just like cut the amount that I needed and used a really kind of like a mid-warm iron. I didn't go too hot because I think the garments were like semi-polyester, so I wanted to be careful. But yeah, this was like really easy to use, and it was like pretty cheap, and you get a lot of it. Yeah, and it's great for all these use cases. So just a reminder that, I mean, if you're inclined to do a little bit of embroidery, it is pretty fast, and I feel like you could do this to a lot of things. Like it'd be cute on, like I've been seeing, like I think Marine Layer has like a custom like embroidery shop situation they have going now for the holidays. But I feel like that's so easy to just like do if you're kind of like more crafty and like more like fiber arts inclined anyway. So just an idea. The other thing that I'll just put in photos of what I ended up making. I had like a beaded necklace fixation earlier in the fall, so I ended up making a few necklaces for myself and my sisters. And again, craft stores were having sales on like beads and, semi-precious stones and like jewels, so was able to snag some supplies there. I will say for those types of projects, your friend is going to be a crimp bead and pliers. The right like needle nose pliers, just to help you like maneuver everything. But otherwise, beading has been like really, making beaded jewelry has been like very therapeutic. And again, it's like a pretty quick gift. So yeah, non-knitting craft segment done. My final segment will be just like random miscellaneous favorites, because I've been enjoying a lot of random things. I'm going to start with this beverage that I've been sipping on pretty much like this whole week since I've had it, since I've discovered or like realized how to make it. So I had a friend come over the weekend, and she kind of got me into like traditional Chinese medicine, just got me like curious about it a little bit more. And, a big thing there is like using like a lot of kind of like food as healing, and knowing the different like benefits of like foods and stuff and like spices. But in general, we just enjoy like a cozy time. And so she brought, I don't know if I have it with me, she brought some spices and ingredients to make like a warming herbal tea. And so she just brought me some dried jujubes, star anise, and then a cinnamon stick. And then some goji berries, which I don't think there's any left over there, but that's fine. We threw those in a pot with a peeled and cut up apple, Asian pear, maybe some like normal, like a Western pear. Can't remember. But we just like steeped it all together and it was so good and so warming. And I've basically just like continued to make more every day. So I just have like a little carafe of it over here. But yeah, I've just been like really enjoying this as my like afternoon pick me up if I need like a sweet pick me up in the middle of the day, like when I'm working from home. I've also just been like drinking this as like a post dinner sweet like drink because usually I'll like make a cup of tea after dinner sometimes while I'm knitting and like maybe drink it, maybe forget about it. But every time I've like had one of these next to me, I drink the whole cup, like always, and it's so good. And it's like truly so I feel like it gets better the longer it kind of just like sits and steeps, and it gets sweeter, and then you can always add like honey or like ginger. But yeah, really been enjoying making and sipping on this tea like every single day. All right. So that is, I think, like the only like food related ingestible favorite. Oh, going into media, there are a couple knitting podcasts that I have been very, very keen on watching. Very excited I found them, and they're both relatively new. The first podcast is Annalisa's podcast, Tall Tale Makes, on YouTube. She's been growing rapidly, which is amazing. She has like a very similar, very calming energy, I should say first. Very calming to watch. She's based out of London, but she's originally from California. Like me, I'm in California. But yeah, she's based in London now and has a very similar, I was saying before, has a very similar like philosophy to how I approach my knits. Like kind of will modify most patterns just to kind of suit her taste and like the final vision that she has in her mind for her projects. So that's been really cool. But just in general, she's also a very like mindful when it comes to like sourcing yarn sustainably. She's like a big like sourcing secondhand sweaters and unraveling them to use the yarn up, which I think is so admirable and something that I feel like I honestly want to aspire to do a little bit more, just in general as well. So yeah, check their podcast out if you haven't already. Yeah, and just good stuff there. And the other podcast, who I also realized also watches Annalisa's podcast, is Rachel Helsper's knitting podcast. Rachel is a knitter based out of Minnesota, I believe. And again, just like really nice, calming, chill vibes. She has 2 little kids, so she'll make like a mix of like, adult knits and some like little kid baby knits, and she has a little one on the way as well, so that's really sweet. But yeah, again, just like really love the vibe. And then her second podcast, which I just watched, that was the first one I discovered actually, her first video. The setting, there's like a wood burning stove in her background and just like very cozy vibes. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, check those out. Okay, going into like non-knitting media favorites, The Diplomat season 3 on Netflix. I binged when it came out earlier last month, I think, and I love it. It stars Carrie Russell, and she's just perfect. She's just perfect in it. I just love the whole world they've built. This like study of her character and her husband and their merit. It's just like I just think it's a really well done show, and I can't wait for season 4, hopefully. But we'll see. Also just like love the style. Love her style. She's like very chic and yeah, just a beautiful. I think she's like almost 50 too. She's just like so, yeah. She looks great. Looks great. But yeah, highly recommend the Diplomat series in general if you haven't watched it. It's on Netflix. I'm still watching plenty of Smosh. I think it's just going to be some channels that I watch now. But due to Smosh, I have been put onto a few games that they introduced me to. One of them is called Flip 7. And I highly recommend Flip 7. It is great. You need at least 3 people to play, but I would say this is like ideal for like larger groups of people. It's ages 8 plus, 20 minutes. It comes with like a QR code that will give you like a scorekeeping app, like a link to an app where you can keep score, which is nice. You don't have to like write anything down. But it's essentially like a number points game, largely dependent on luck and what you draw, but it's like a very easy to learn game. You don't have to think really at all. And yeah, I just highly recommend it. Great design as well. So Flip 7, if you're curious, especially for like holiday season coming up, you're looking for like neutral ways to interact with like family or friends, just bring a game. And Flip 7 could be that game. And then another game that I recently got, I have like a small group of coworkers at work where we'll get together monthly and play a game during lunch together, just like, keep the spirit alive and keep morale up. There's this game that we're going to play next. This is called Da 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 Da, or Da Da Da. And it's essentially like a language developing mind meld type game. You kind of have to create your own language as a group. And yeah, it kind of, how you win just kind of depends on like how well of a language you create and like if you can really meld minds with your team. I will link some videos of Smosh playing these games if you're curious to like see it in action, because that's usually like what gets me hooked or curious to like look into these games actually. So yeah, there's one final game activity that I need to tell y'all about. This is truly so random, but I recently watched somebody do this online. Like it was like a random streamer. I had just like happened to click on their video and they were solving a Rubik's Cube and they just made it look so fun and so like attainable. And it just like struck a chord with me and I really was inspired to learn how to do it. So I ordered myself a $6 cube off Amazon. And I will link to the tutorials that I followed, and now I can solve a Rubik's Cube in under 5 minutes. I timed myself the other day and I solved it in 4 minutes and 14 seconds. So, but yeah. Do you know how to solve a Rubik's Cube? This is one of those things where it was like, I feel like it was like kind of a loose bucket list item to like maybe figure out how to do someday. But yeah, I finally learned how to solve a Rubik's Cube and it's like really fun and very engaging. Like I've taken this on some of my commutes lately when I've needed to rest my hands from knitting, and it's just great. It's like a great time suck, makes time go by really fast. And yeah, I kind of just like bring it everywhere with me now. Rubik's Cubing. Who would have known? Who'd have thought? Who'd have thunk? But yeah, and I really like it. We're almost there. Just one more thing, random favorite to shout out. I'm having particularly good skin these days, which is not always a given for me. And I do think part of it is due to this new cream that I've been using, which I use just day and night, and it's really simplified my my skincare routine. I used to be on Curology, which kind of ended up not being that effective. I still have like one last bottle I'm slowly going through, but I don't really use it every day anymore. So I really don't think like that has anything to do with my skin improvements, but this is the cream that I'm using. It's the La Roche-Posay Lipikar Triple Repair Moisturizing Cream. I just figured I'd shout it out. It is a white cream. On the package it says it's accepted by the National Eczema Association, or eczema, however you say that. And I do have eczema like on random parts of my body, but not on my face. But yeah, it's just like, I'll squeeze some out. It's like a pretty, it's like not the thickest cream, but it is fairly emollient. Look at me. I would say, especially because it's like winter now, it is a nice like thickness. It's not like super super thick, but it's not runny, and like it still leaves your skin like a little bit tacky, but it doesn't leave your skin greasy. I would say it's like between like a normal like regular lotion and like a gel cream. It's like somewhere in between, but I just really feel like it keeps your skin hydrated. It soaks in like within an okay amount of time. And a little bit goes a long way too. So highly recommend this. I just ordered like the larger like pump size of this to just use day to day, and I'll save this for travel. But yeah, huge fan of this. It has shea butter, niacinamide, ceramide 3. But yeah, so I know there's some like probably some sales coming up soon, so if you want to try this out and it's on sale, give it a go. And I believe that's it. Final thing I'll mention is I have a upcoming trip to the UK. I will be hitting up London, parts of London, mainly going there to visit Scotland, the Isle of Skye, and trying to decide on the third location, trying to decide between like Ireland or Paris maybe. But yeah, that's coming up in a few weeks. Very excited. Need to book a bunch of things, but yeah, super stoked. And I will definitely take a lot of footage there and maybe even talk to you while I'm in one of those places. So yeah. But yeah, I hope this video wasn't too long. I hope it was like perfectly long enough for you. But yeah, thank you again for like sticking with me, coming back to my channel. I really love being able to talk about knitting and all the things that we're making. Definitely hoping to do like a roundup of the things I end up gift knitting or thinking of gift knitting in my next podcast. So yeah, hopefully you can get something together there. And yeah, let me know also like what's bringing you joy these days, what you're knitting, what you're planning to knit or what you're curious about, or what you're like planning to gift knit. But yeah, that's it. I'll stop gabbing and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.